have to actually be in the band. I didn't have to march. I didn't have to have an instrument. I didn't have to practice. So it was like totally sweet deal.
We get up to the stage, put on our show, and like the crowd is just not into it. They're just not feeling it. I can tell. We played some kick-ass songs. Like I said, we were fun and cool.
Okay, so this is my most embarrassing moment. Well, at least the most embarrassing moment that I'm willing to share. So this was when I was in high school. I was a senior and I was the announcer for the band, which was the best job ever because it meant that I got to go on the bus to all the away games and I had a lot of friends in bands. I got to hang out with them, but I didn't have to actually be in the band. I didn't have to march. I didn't have to have an instrument. I didn't have to practice. So it was like totally sweet deal. So this particular incident occurred during a home game. And so I would go up at halftime and the band would come out on the field and I would announce the drum majors and maybe the first song. And then that was all that I had to do. So, it was pretty easy. So this particular night I went up to the field house and so the visiting band always goes first. So the guy that was their announcer was there and he was doing their announcing and he gets finished and he leaves. And so I go and I sit in front of the microphone and I watch their band perform. And then they just stood there on the field and they just kept standing there and they didn't move. And so I'm talking to them, to myself, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Like, why are you just standing there? Get off the field. Like, just move along now. I'm ready. I want to go home. I want to get this over with. So they finally march off the field. And so I flip the mic on. And so I do my announcing thing and I finish. And so I go down and I'm standing next to the fence, next to the track, and I watch our band perform and they finish their performance. And they start marching past me on the way back to their seats. And they're repeating back to me what I said because apparently visitor guy hadn't thoroughly turned off the mic. And so everybody in the entire stadium could hear me saying, what are you doing? Get off the field. Why are you just standing there? Oh my gosh. And I was just so humiliated. And our band director, Mr. Petty, was just like a very serious person. And so by the time he got to me, I was just crying because I felt so bad. And he was like coming up to be mad. And then he just saw me in tears, and I was like, I didn't know the mic was on. And so he couldn't really be mad at me. So the next day, so we were playing, I forgot to say, we were playing the Pflugerville Panthers. So this was a town that was near to us. I'm from a small town. So the next day, my mom goes to Pflugerville to get her hair cut because that's where she goes. And so the lady's cutting her hair and she says to my mom, she's like, oh yeah, we were in Taylor for the game last night. And she's like, this rude girl told us, told our band to get off the field. And so my mom was like, oh, that's terrible. Who would do that? So, even my mom was ashamed of me. So that's the story.
Hey, so you want to hear a story? I'm going to tell you the most embarrassing thing that ever happened. Well, maybe second most embarrassing. There's some things I'm not going to say. This happened to me when I was in high school. And one thing you got to know about me is that I was the announcer for our marching band, which is a great job. Oh my goodness. You get to go to all the away games, but you're the announcer. You don't have to march, you don't have to practice, you don't even have to play an instrument. So, pretty cool. Now this embarrassment happened at a home game. And when you're at a home game, of course, the away team gets to do, their band gets to perform first. And so their announcer comes on and announces their band and they get to going. And, normally you turn the mic off, like after the announcements. But I get into position watching their band, setting up to be in front of the mic myself. And their band finishes and then they all just stand there, just stiff, silently, like they're waiting for something. But nothing is happening. And so I'm just like, what are you waiting for? field. Go. Move on. And eventually they do. Finally they get it into their heads that like things are over, time to move on. And I get to finally announce our band, and things are moving and going great. And I think everything's fine. When the band, when they're filing back, behind the stadium, as they walk past me, each of them, one by one, says out loud, "Hey, what are you doing? Get off the field. You're done." Like they all heard me. Apparently the mic was on and everybody heard me. A whole stadium, all these people, everybody heard me saying, "What are you doing? Go, get away." I've never been so embarrassed in my whole life. And the band director had some words for me. Very serious guy, very upset, but I wasn't in any trouble. It was okay. That wasn't the most embarrassing part, as embarrassing as that was. The next day, my mom had to get her hair done over in Pflugerville, because small town. And the visiting team was the Pflugerville Panthers. So, when my mom goes out to the hairdresser says, "Oh, hey, we were in your town last night for the game, and some girl was telling our band to get off the field. She was so rude. We have never been so insulted in our lives." And my mother was like, "Oh, that's terrible. I can't believe somebody would do that," not knowing that they were talking about me. Wow. So that was the most embarrassing thing, and it's an embarrassment that just kept coming. First, I'm embarrassed there in front of all those people, in front of the band, in front of the band director, in front of my mom, and apparently the entire town of Pflugerville. So, there you have it.
Okay, this is the story of the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. Okay, maybe it's the second most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me, but y'all, I don't share everything. Anyway, this goes all the way back to high school. And in high school, I was the band announcer at football games. And if you've never been to a football game in high school and in college, they do this too. When the bands march out, like the visiting team band, they have their announcer and they announce the songs that they're going to play and different things. And then the home team marches out and they play their songs. There's an announcer, and that was my job. So there's this one game, and we had a team visiting, and they got to go first, and their announcer announces everything, and everything's going pretty great. And at the end of their performance, they just stand there, not doing anything. And I can remember thinking out loud, "Geez, what's wrong with these guys? Don't just stand there, get off the field." And eventually they do march off the field, and it's our time, and I announce our band, and they do a great halftime performance as usual. Well, my microphone is down on the field, so as the band is marching past, the visiting band also marches past, and they kept making little remarks like, "What are you doing just standing there? Get off the field." That's when I realized that I didn't just think it out loud. I said it out loud over the PA, and everyone in the stadium heard me. I got in trouble with the band director, got a stern talking to, didn't lose my gig. So that was bad enough. The next day, my mom goes to get a haircut, and she gets a haircut in Pflugerville, which is another small town nearby. The hairdresser talks about the game the night before and how her football team had played our team, and they talk about the halftime show. And someone in the salon also chimes in going, "Yeah, I was at that game, and some rude girl got on the PA and just said, what are you doing? Get off the football field," when it was our team's band's time to go on and perform. And so not only had I embarrassed myself in my hometown, I'd also embarrassed myself in a neighboring town of Pflugerville. So yeah, that was quite lovely.
got a really embarrassing story to share with y'all. When I was in high school, I was the announcer for the marching band. Oh yeah, and I thought it was hot shit too, because I would come out and I'd announce the marching band before they got on the field. And this one game, we had the visitors come in from Pflugerville, and they would do the visitors always do their show first. So we're sitting on the sidelines waiting, and I had my microphone on waiting for them. We're all making fun of them because we didn't like Pflugerville. They sucked. Anyway, so they're doing the show, and then they got done, and I was like, oh, look at how dumb they are on the field. They don't like their song either. They didn't know how to do anything right. Anyway, so they're just standing on the field. After they're done with their show, they wouldn't get off the field. I'm like, what a bunch of dummies. Why are you hogging up the damn field for? So finally we got onto the field, we did our show, and they're shooting us dirty looks, like, well, dumb Pflugerville, they don't know what they're doing. Anyway, we got done with our show, and then got over to the side, and coach comes up, he goes, you had your microphone the whole time, the whole stadium could hear you bad-mouthing those Pflugervilles. And I was like, whoa, okay. Does that mean I still get to keep my job? And thankfully, I think he kind of liked the fact that we were dogging the Pflugervilles that time. Anyway, the mama next day went to go get her hair did in Pflugerville, and she had to sit there, and all the ladies were like gossiping and talking about, did you hear about that announcer just making all kinds of fun of our team? How rude. So not only did I embarrass myself, but I also embarrassed my mama.
Boy, I got a real embarrassing story to tell. Everybody was wearing a hat, so I decided to wear one too. This is the only one I have. So I got a real embarrassing story to tell about this time when I was part of the marching band, and we had a show in Pflugerville. So our team had a show in Pflugerville. So I'm sorry, I was not part of the marching band. I was an announcer, and we hated the people from Pflugerville. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so we went to Pflugerville, and the marching band was having fun and doing all the things that they should have done. Just marching around. And after the show, I was talking, during the show, I was talking to a friend, and I was talking about how bad Pflugerville is, and I was bad-mouthing them and speaking all the awful things about Pflugerville, because we hate Pflugerville, come on, they suck. So, after they did their awful show and their awful presentation, they just wouldn't move off stage. They kept being on stage and, just sucking and being Pflugerville, like we all know how they are. So they ended up leaving the stage and everything, and everything's went back to being great. And my boss comes and talks to me and tells me, hey, come here. You had your microphone as an announcer turned on the entire presentation, the entire show. So everybody heard how you were bad-mouthing Pflugerville. So I was very embarrassed, and I was like, are you gonna fire me? And he was actually very happy about this, and he did not fire me at all. So he was probably, hated at Pflugerville as much as I did, and we all did. Everybody hates Pflugerville. But the point about this is that I was very embarrassed about this. It was an awful story. And my mom, the next day, she went to Pflugerville to get her hair done. And she was hearing all the people around the hairdresser. They were talking about, how this presenter badmouthed Pflugerville through the entire team, and how, he badmouthed the team. And, I did not only embarrass myself by doing that, but I also embarrassed my mom.
So I'm going to tell you a story. It's a little bit embarrassing for me. It's about a time when I was in high school, and there was a big band competition. I wasn't in the band, but I was an announcer, and I noticed, it's hat day today, so I got my hat on. But we're there, and the damn show is in Pflugerville. And if you've been to Pflugerville, it sucks. Everyone knows Pflugerville sucks. So we're there, and I'm doing the announcing and everything, and it's all going fine, and the Pflugerville band finishes, and they sucked. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to the other announcer, and we're just bad-mouthing Pflugerville. Pflugerville stinks, it smells bad, the people smell bad. Everything in Pflugerville sucks. Pflugerville is the worst town in Texas. And so we're there, we're yakking it up, and they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't get off the stage. They just sat there, looking at us, and we're still bad-mouthing the crap out of them and just saying awful things about Pflugerville, because Pflugerville sucks. Pflugerville is the worst. So finally they leave the stage. I mean, finally they get off the stage, and the director of the whole thing comes up to me and says, "Hey man, you had your microphone on the whole time. You were bad-mouthing Pflugerville and the Pflugerville band." And I thought, oh man, I'm gonna get fired. I'm just gonna get thrown out of here. And I thought he was gonna be all pissed off at me and stuff. But he wasn't. He thought it was funny. He hates Pflugerville too, man. That's crazy. So he hates them too. Everybody hates Pflugerville. So I'm thinking, well, big deal, right? So unfortunately, my mama had to go get her hair done in Pflugerville the very next day. And she's there in the salon getting her hair done, and she hears all these people talking about that nasty man with the microphone talking bad about the Pflugerville band and how bad Pflugerville sucks. And my mama was really embarrassed because she knew it was me. So that's, the point of the whole damn story is that I made my mama embarrassed. And Pflugerville sucks. It still sucks. There.
So this is a story of when I was in high school. There was a band event. I wasn't in the band, but I was an announcer for the band, like a high school band. And I had to go out of town to the event, which was in Pflugerville, and I had to be an announcer there. And nobody wants to go to Pflugerville. It sucks. So over there, the Pflugerville band is on, and I'm talking to the announcer, like, finally, like, we're waiting for him to get off the stage. And the other announcer, I told him how everyone in Pflugerville smells, how they suck, the whole place smells, everyone's terrible. And the announcer was like, yeah, they agree too. So it was great. Then they went off the stage finally, and the head person, like the manager, announcer, comes over and says, hey, your mics were on the whole time. We're like, what? Like, yeah, everyone heard everything you said. So like, oh man, we're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get kicked out of here. They're gonna hate us. But turns out that guy, the manager guy, he's like, no, he agrees. Pflugerville does suck. And we're like, oh, great, whew. So everything's fine, right? And so then the next day, my mom, I had to take her to a salon in Pflugerville. So I take her, and we're just listening to people talk, and talk about how the man was talking so much mess about Pflugerville. And my mom heard that, and she knew it was me, and she was so embarrassed. And that's the story on how, moral point of the story is, I made my mom embarrassed. And Pflugerville still sucks.
Hi, so I want to tell you this story that happened to me. So when I was in high school, I was the announcer for the band, and we were going to Pflugerville. And I didn't want to go to Pflugerville because it smells and it really sucks, but I had to go, so I did. So when we got to Pflugerville, then I was up on stage, and the other Pflugerville announcer was up there, and like he was like staying up there forever and ever. And then we got to talking, and I was like saying like how Pflugerville smelled and how it sucked, and who would want to be here. And then I was like, oh gosh, I probably shouldn't be saying this, sorry. But the other like announcer guy from Pflugerville was like, no, yeah, it sucks. Like, I get it, it's okay. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. So finally, the Pflugerville guy, band director, leaves the stage. And but then the manager person comes up, and so the manager Pflugerville person says, do you guys know your mics were on the whole time, so everybody heard everything you had to say. And I was like, oh my God, like we're gonna get in trouble. Oh my God. And the other guy's like, oh my God. And then the manager's like, no, it's cool. Like, Pflugerville sucks. Yeah, I get it. So I was like, whew, okay, fantastic, good, great, okay. So then, like, the next day, my mom has a hair appointment in Pflugerville. So I take my mom to the hair appointment in Pflugerville, and I'm sitting there, and, like, everybody in the whole salon is talking about this man and, like, how they were talking bad about Pflugerville and, talking crap about it. And, like, that was me. And my mom knew that it was me, and she was, like, really, really embarrassed. And so the moral of the story is that I embarrassed my mom, but that Pflugerville is still a town that really just absolutely sucks.
All right, so I wanted to tell y'all a story about I was the manager, or I was the announcer for a band in high school, I think, and we were going to Pflugerville to do a band thing in Pflugerville, and I was like, I don't want to go to Pflugerville because Pflugerville sucks. Like, what's in Pflugerville? And it stinks more like Pflugerville. And when we got there, I met up with the announcer guy for the Pflugerville band, or the conductor or whatever, and we started talking, and I just started like going, and I was like, man, this town sucks. It smells like crap. Everyone that's here sucks. This really, like, I don't like being here. And then I was like, oh no, I shouldn't be saying this. This guy's from Pflugerville. I probably offended him. And he was like, but to my surprise, he was like, nah, man, yeah, I get it. It sucks here. This town sucks. So then we get done with the announcing of the thing, and then we get down, and the manager of the place, like, stopped us, and he was like, you guys realize your mics were on the whole time, and everyone heard what you were saying about Pflugerville sucking. And we were like, oh no. But it turns out, like, no one was mad. The guy was like, no, I get it. Like, we all get it. It sucks. Like, this place sucks. But then the next day, I was having lunch with my mom, who lives there in Pflugerville. And she was talking about how the announcer guys were talking crap about Pflugerville over the PA, and they didn't realize it. And she knew that I was one of the announcer guys, but she didn't want to, like, embarrass me by saying that, because she said that she was super embarrassed. So basically, I embarrassed the shit out of my mom, but it doesn't matter because Pflugerville is a shitty town.
Okay, so the story I'm about to tell you happened, when I was in high school. And, like, when I was in high school, I was in a band, right? Pretty cool. And anyway, I liked it a lot, And we would go play a lot of shows and stuff. It was cool. And I was always the one that did all the talking for the band. I was the one that would be like, hey, we're coming up, and talking to the audience and stuff like that. So one day we were all hanging out, me and the band, and they were like, hey, there's this thing in Pflugerville, and we want to go play it. Like, we're scheduled. We got to go out of town and go. And I was like, Pflugerville? Man, Pflugerville sucks. Like, I don't want to go to Pflugerville. Pflugerville's like Boogerville. Like, it's freaking small town, Texas. Not cool. Being little high school me. Doesn't fit. So anyway, we went to Pflugerville, and we're gonna play this thing. It's like little Pflugerville concert thing, and so yeah, like, anyway, I'm supposed to do the announcing, and I'm like still just like, I can't believe we're here. I saw the person that was like the MC, the dude that was like the announcer, and I was like, oh, I want to talk to this person. Like, we do kind of the same thing, like, whatever, might as well do that. So I went up and said hey, and started talking to him. He was pretty cool, and I forgot for a second. I was like, man, I can't believe this is all happening here in this town, Pflugerville, because Pflugerville sucks. It just sucks. And then I was like, oh, fuck. I felt so bad. I was like, oh man, this guy, he's from Pflugerville. Like, he cannot escape it. That is like, what did I say? I mean, like, what? anyway, he was really cool about it. And he was like, no, yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. Absolutely, you're right. I mean, Pflugerville does suck. And then we went and like talked about all the ways it sucked. Then we went on stage and did our things and stuff like that. Band played, everything happened. And then we're getting ready to go, and the band was pissed. And they're like, I was like, what? And they're like, do you not know? The whole time you were talking to that guy before, announcing us to come on and this and that, both of y'all's mics were on. Both of them. The audience, everybody heard everything you had to say. Didn't you catch that? I was like, no. So that shut me up for the rest of the evening. Anyway, we went home and stuff. I mean, I felt bad. And like the next day and everything, I mean, no one does just. My mom has relatives in Pflugerville. I guess I do too, whatever. And she was kind of quiet. And I was like, And I was like, Mom, hey. She's like, hi. So y'all went to that thing in Pflugerville? And I was like, yep. She's like, yeah. I felt so embarrassed for the people there, the good people that were there, because I don't know how this happened, but it sounds like there was the announcer and like some other person from out of town, and they didn't realize their mics were on. They were insulting everybody, the town, everything. And I just feel so embarrassed that something like that would happen at just such a nice little festival. And I was like, and I felt so bad. Because like I let myself down. I let that announcer guy down. I let the band down. I insulted the entire town of Pflugerville. I embarrassed my mom. I mean, you can't. Yeah, you gotta climb up out of that hole, But here's the thing: is like, yo, Pflugerville still sucks. And that's the point of this story. Thanks.
So, when I was in high school, I was in a rock band, like a super cool rock band, and it was super fun. We traveled all over the place. We went and played festivals. It was like we played shows all over the place. It was totally fun. Like I felt like I was so cool, and really, like, I was the spokesperson for the band because I, was a front man and I was comfortable on the microphone. And so, like, whenever we would go somewhere, I would be the one who would, like, announce us and say, how you doing? And the audience would respond. And it was so cool. Like, I was really enjoyed it. Really cool to be in a band in high school. Like, I thought I was really the shit, right? So one time I was hanging out with my bandmates and we were just chilling and like, where are we going to play next? And one of my bandmates was like, well, hey, there's this festival. And I was like, cool, let's go to a festival. And they were like, but it's in Pflugerville. Pflugerville? I said, Pflugerville is like Boogerville, man. I hate Pflugerville. It's like small town Texas. Like, who wants to hear a rock band play in Boogerville, Texas? It's just gonna suck. So I was really not excited about going. But my bandmates were. So they convinced me, and you know what? We didn't have anywhere else to play anyway. So I'm like, all right, let's go to Pflugerville. So we get there, and it's exactly what you would think. It's small time, like is not a lot going on. And there's a couple bands playing in addition to us, and then there's like this main like MC dude, right? And I see him hanging out, and I'm like, well, I'm MCing for the band. You're MCing for like this whole Pflugerville festival. And so I'm like, let me just go talk to him before we go on. And I went over to him and, I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm in this band, whatever, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, I'm okay. Thanks for coming to Pflugerville. And I was like, yeah, man, Pflugerville sucks. And then I was like, oh, I'm embarrassed because Of course, this guy lives in Pflugerville and he's totally stuck there. He can't escape Pflugerville, right? Because he has always lived there. So I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, well, it does kind of suck because of this and that. And then I'm like, yeah, and it sucks because of this and that. And we just kind of went through all the ways that Pflugerville sucked. And then he's like, oh, okay, you're on. And so we did our show, we did a good job. But the audience wasn't super into it. You know, they were kind of like, you know, kind of down, and like they weren't really screaming and cheering for us. And I just figured that's small town, right? They're just whatever. But yeah, so we finished our set, and the band, we got off stage, and the band just started staring me down. And they're looking at me, and they're so mad. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, did I sing something wrong, or did I play something? Like, what is wrong with you guys? And they go, did you realize the whole time you were talking to that MC dude, your mic was hot? Your mic was hot. It was on. We could hear everything you said. The whole audience could hear everything you said. You were dogging on Pflugerville, and everyone could hear everything. And then we had to go on and play. So no wonder the audience hated us, because you just finished telling them how bad their town was. So bad. And if that's not bad enough, we drive back, and my mom, who has relatives in Pflugerville, I guess I have relatives in Pflugerville too. My mom was like, wow, I heard about that festival. She's like, do you believe that some out-of-towner got on stage and talked about how bad Pflugerville was the whole time? She's like, I'm so embarrassed for that band. That sucks for them. That was me. Ugh, I'm so embarrassed. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed my band. I embarrassed my mom. And that's something you don't get over really fast. Embarrassing your mom, and her relatives all heard about it. So that shut me up really fast. Really sad that I embarrassed my mom. But Pflugerville still sucks.
Okay, so back in high school, I was in a rock band. And it was really cool, and it was really fun, and I was really cool and really fun. And so I was kind of the spokesperson of the group, like the front runner. I would, talk to the audience and get them, ready for the show and introduce the band and stuff. And we played a lot of gigs. We played a lot of concerts. It was a lot of fun while it lasted. And one day, we were hanging out, the band, and, just chilling and talking to each other, like, what is next? What are we going to do? And one of the members mentioned, there's a festival coming up. And I was like, oh, sweet, let's do that, But it's in Pflugerville. And I was thinking to myself, oh, man, Pflugerville, that's like, who plays shows in Pflugerville? Like, it's a small town, Texas, more like Boogerville, Texas, Who wants to play a show at Boogerville, Texas? But, we didn't really have anything else going on. And so we took the festival and we took the gig. And we go up to Pflugerville. And we're at the show. And there's a couple bands playing. And I thought that since I'm the MC of the group, that I would go introduce myself to the MC of the festival. And so he was very friendly. He welcomes us. He's like, hey, welcome to Pflugerville. Thank you for being here. And I just stumbled out, Pflugerville sucks, jokingly. But I was embarrassed after that because he probably lives in Pflugerville and has to deal with being from Pflugerville. And so he took it, and we just started, talking about like reasons why Pflugerville sucks and Pflugerville this, and, I was just ragging on Pflugerville, jokingly. So eventually it's our set. And so it's time to go on. And we get on stage, and I introduce the band, and the crowd is kind of just like not really there. And we play, and the show again, the crowd just like wasn't really there, just like not feeling it, kind of distant. And so we do the set, we get off stage, and my bandmates just like are staring me down, just like like the angry stare. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what did I do something? And they're like, dude, your mic was hot the entire time that last set, and so you were just harping on Pflugerville to all these Pflugervillians, and so of course that's why the show was so bad, because everyone heard you, just shitting on Pflugerville, and I was just like so embarrassed, and so we go back home. I'm at home, and the word gets out about this band, and so my mom is like coming to me, and she's like, "Oh, I heard, how'd the festival go?" And I was just like, it was all right, and she was like, "Can you believe that some out of town band just like shat on Pflugerville for the entire set and just like talked bad against them?" And I was just like, that was me. And so I was an embarrassment to myself. I was an embarrassment to the band. I was an embarrassment to my mom. The whole world. I was just an embarrassment. And it was so embarrassing. But you know what? All in the end, Pflugerville still sucks. So embarrassed that.
All right, so when I was in high school, I was in this band, and it was really cool and fun, and we were really cool and fun. And I was like, the MC, the front man for this band, so I'd always like pump up the crowd, hype them up and everything. And one day after a show, we're all sitting around just talking, like, saying, what's next as a band? What are we gonna do? What's next? And one of the other people in the band was like, I heard there's this festival coming up. We should do that. Like, oh yeah, festival. Of course we should do that. Where is it? And the guy said, well, it's in Pflugerville. I was like, Pflugerville? More like Boogerville. Like booger and Pfluger. Stupid. Boogerville. I don't want to do that. But we were just thinking, we're not getting much opportunity to do festivals, so might as well take it. Let's do it. So we decide we're going to do it. We get up to the festival. There's a few bands. It looks like a good time. A lot of people around. And like I said, since I'm the MC of this band, I'm going to go introduce myself to the MC of the festival. So I go up and I talk to him, and he's like, thanks for coming down to do our festival. And I was like, I was just joking around with him. I was like, yeah, Pflugerville sucks. I was just joking, but I could tell, he wasn't too excited about it, but we kept talking anyway. I'm just kind of ragging on Pflugerville, just lighthearted, but like, I did my whole Boogerville thing from earlier. And anyway, it was a decent conversation, but whatever. We went backstage and waited our turn. And we get up to the stage, put on our show, and like the crowd is just not into it. They're just not feeling it. I can tell. We played some kick-ass songs. Like I said, we were fun and cool, but these guys didn't really think so. So we kind of slogged through our entire set and get backstage, and the rest of my bandmates just kind of looked at me and they're like, what is wrong with you? Like, what did I do? I just did my thing. Like, the whole time you were talking to that guy, your mic was hot. Like, the whole crowd heard what you were saying. You disrespected Pflugerville and all the Pflugervillians in the audience. And oh man, I was so embarrassed. It was terrible. I felt so bad. So, it was a sad drive home. Finally make it home and, get to my mom's house, and she comes down and asks how the concert went. And I told her, we played okay, but the crowd wasn't really into it. My mom said, You know, did you hear about that out-of-town band that came in and just ripped into Pflugerville in front of everybody? And I just kind of looked at my mom like, ooh, yeah, that was me. Oh, and my mom was so disappointed. I had embarrassed myself, I embarrassed my mom, I embarrassed the world. Oh, it's terrible. But you know what? Pflugerville still sucks. Embarrass that.
Story's a little bit embarrassing for me.